acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the country we are speaking on today. We recognise their continued connection to the land and waters and thank them for protecting this coastline and its ecosystem since time began. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all First Nations people who may listen today. Let's get into it. Where are you living right now?
We're in Scotland. We're back in Scotland. So, yeah.
Yeah, what part?
We're back in Fife.
Back in Fife.
Yeah.
Is Gary from there too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's been so interesting because being back, so I actually live in the town that I was born. And since my spiritual awakening, I've become so obsessed with the town that I was born in. And now I'm seeing like there's a reason why I'm back here, and I'm like connecting all these dots and kind of figuring out the land and the history of here. And yeah, it's amazing. So
yes,
there's a deeper meaning to that.
Yeah, huge deeper meaning, and yeah, you connecting and having a spiritual awakening is a huge question of mine. But let's start at the beginning. What was life like in Fife growing up?
So growing up, yeah, I mean, I had a great childhood. I really did. I had a great childhood. It was so different to what I see kids experiencing now. I mean, I have younger brothers and sisters. There's 20 years between me and my youngest brother. Yeah. So
I thought I was big. Mine's 13 years between me and my other brother.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So 20 years between my brother and I. And to see the difference between, you know, how kids grow up now in comparison to what my childhood was like. I mean, my childhood, we would be outside all the time. We'd be playing. You would go home when the street lights came on. You know, if you were to go home for dinner, your mum would shout you a few blocks away and you'd run home, and there was no technology. Yeah, there was no technology, but obviously now kids are just, they're on their devices, they're on their Xboxes, they're just wired into something completely different. So yeah, for me, my upbringing was, you know, very outdoorsy, full of love, and yeah, it was great.
And what was Fife like? Like, is it in like mountain range? Is it nature, or is it like a town or a city? What is it like?
Fife's on the east coast of Scotland, so we have a lot of beautiful beaches.
Yeah,
you know, you can drive 5-10 minutes everywhere. Yeah, and so I'm really drawn to the sea. I love going to the beach, as you'll see on my stories. I'm there nearly every day, and yeah, it's a beautiful coastline. You know, we're on different sides of the world, and we're both at the beach. It's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that's it. The ocean touches every corner of the globe, really. And the guest I had on yesterday rode the Atlantic.
Wow.
He rode the Atlantic, and oh my God, the stories. I won't share his name just yet. I don't know what. I don't know what sequence I'm gonna start uploading these in. But anyways, yeah, he said there was a moment when they were out in the middle of the Atlantic, both the scary stories and then this one absolute mystical, magical, incredible story where the whole of the ocean just came to like a standstill as such, but there was no waves, there was no ripples, there was nothing. It was just zen, just peace. It was like a postcard. It was one of those moments where they all just stopped. They stopped rowing. They got the others out of bed and they just come up onto the deck and just like sat there and mesmerized
energy.
by. Yeah.
Just energy, everything all aligned, probably, yeah.
The sky, yeah, all of it. The mist, it was just, yeah, I love the ocean. I spent half my life. This is my tattoo here, which is stands for my pineal gland. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh yeah.
So it's my pineal gland, my third eye, and inside of the eye is a wave in the eyeball. So it's looking at the ocean, and then you got the sunrise as well. The sunrise coming up over the ocean that's inside of that.
I love it.
Yeah, it's incredible. And what's the beaches like there? Do you go swimming as well? Is it cold?
You can do. Yeah, no, it's cold here all year round, but you know, on the islands of Scotland, like Stornoway, Lewis, the beaches in Scotland up there are like the Caribbean. So the sand is
Wow.
pure white and the sea is like turquoise. It's the most beautiful beaches. And I've lived in Australia as well, as you know. And those beaches are the most beautiful, beautiful beaches I have ever seen because it's untouched. Like there's barely anyone that goes on them. And then in the background, it's like pure, harsh mountain, like black. So it's really contrasting. Like
Yeah,
you've never
yeah.
seen anything like it in your life. And there's wild horses. You know, Scotland's just so magical. But yeah, the beaches here are incredible.
Yeah, brilliant. And what's the like? Is the water cold there too?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think we just
looks.
kind of we just get accustomed to the cold here. We're like, yeah, it's cold, but we don't feel it, so it's
Yeah,
fine. Yeah.
yeah. I've got family in Scotland as well. I think he's in Glasgow. He's got a
Hmm.
family. It's crazy.
Yeah.
He's a crazy head. But anyways, and
West
then
Coasters normally are.
yeah, yeah. So, tell us about then your teenage years.
So yeah, teenage years, I loved school. I loved learning.
Mm-hmm.
I just really threw myself into the whole school thing, I guess. You know, prefect, house captain, really just wanted to absorb all the experiences that came with school. I was popular. I really enjoyed socializing. And yeah, I mean, I guess like throughout my childhood, it was just one of those things whereby I loved connecting with people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I guess it was, yeah, I mean, when you're a teenager, you make mistakes. There's loads of things that happen. And I did have a rebellious streak, I won't lie. My mum will vouch for that as well. Yeah, I was a rebel at times, but um, you know, I look back at that and I'm glad that I experienced all that. And yeah, I mean, through my teenage years, I stuck in at school. And what I did was I kind of just leant towards all the subjects that I just knew I was naturally good at. I never forced anything. Some people will be like, why did you take art? Why did you take geography? Why did you take English? Well, I was just good at them. So just thought, take the easy route, just choose things that you like and are good at rather than, I guess from a young age, I was quite intuitive because although people were telling me, pick accounts, pick business, pick this,
Mm.
I just knew I would struggle. So intuitively, I was like, nah, let me pick these subjects. And, you know, I got A's for a lot of stuff, B's. I stuck in till the end. And then I actually got into university in Dundee.
Mm.
So I got into art school there, which is it's a really well-known art school, Duncan and Jordanston. And at the time, they actually only allow 100 candidates in per year. So I worked really hard towards that, and that was my goal. I thought, you know what, if I can get in there, it means that I get into a uni. I'd
Mm-hmm.
be probably one of the only family members to do that. And yeah, I got in. I got in. So that was pretty cool. That was a cool experience.
And brilliant. Like, I'm really glad to hear you say that and presence that as well. And it's something that I'll always be highlighting with for listeners. The fact that everybody else was telling you what to do and you
Mm-hmm.
stuck to what you intuitively knew within that you would accomplish, and also that what would bring you joy.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I highlight this is because a lot a high percentage of those closest to us tell us how we should live based on their perception of reality,
Yes.
and that diminishes who we are as a person. Although they do it with love, and guidance and whatever they think to be best for you, but is it really? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so recognize that for all of the listeners, recognize that whenever you go to do something that's new and wacky,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, where the energy lies in those who tell you not what to
This
do.
is it. This is it. And I guess the subjects that I picked at school, it was like a lucky bag. None of them made sense to one another, but I just knew that I would be able to pass them all and I would enjoy learning about them all. So,
Mm,
yeah, I mean, people will tell you you should have this subject along with this one. And then what's the point in having the rest of your school years being miserable because you're picking subjects that are just impossible for your brain to compute? So, yeah,
mm.
my way, let me pick things that I like. Let me pick things that I enjoy. Maybe they don't all make sense to one another, but if I'm getting A's, then here we go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good start. So come here, tell us about your situation with bulimia.
Oh, bulimia, yeah. So that kind of came through an experience that I had whereby I was thrown into the industry of modelling, TV. I was kind of made famous, I would say, overnight. I participated in the UK Big Brother, and it was just a complete whirlwind, total whirlwind. And I think the pressures of having to show up to photo shoots, the pressures of the new life that I had, it was very fast paced. There was always a huge social aspect from it, drinking, eating, dinners, and it just all became so much to the point where I think I used that as a way of controlling the external elements. So bulimia wasn't something that I had ever experienced before in my teenage years, even like, you know, leading up to that point, it was like something just switched. And one night I actually felt, it wasn't like, I remember the first time this happened, we were at a dinner, I'd had a busy week, and something came over me and I felt really sick at the dinner table and I had to excuse myself. I went and I was sick, and it was like this high came over me and I thought, wow, okay.
Wow.
And it was like this switch that went off of me, and I thought maybe that's a way that I can control all my external things that are going on. So it was almost like an accident. And then from there I was like, okay, if ever I feel this is too much, I'm just going to go and be sick. And that was where the bulimia started. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment. It was just like something flipped and I felt this high, and I used that I would say for maybe nearly a year. Wow. Until I realised that it was really becoming destructive. And I don't think I actually recognised that that's what it was until it was like nearing the year point as well.
Cool. So what bulimia, like, break it down, what exactly is it? For me, because I don't understand it right now.
So with bulimia, what is, it's an eating disorder whereby you binge and purge. So you eat and
purge.
Eat. And usually what you do is you'll eat to the extent whereby you feel really high and you feel good and it's fulfilling something. And then once you've done that, the guilt sets in, and then you feel like you can't have all this within your system, so then you purge. So it's this constant like to, whereas anorexia is different. It's just like you don't actually eat food.
Yeah.
So with different, you eat to the extent whereby you get a high, and then you need to like get it out your system.
So what was life like? Let's say you're binging and then you're purging, but you're at this fancy dinner and you're going back and you're sitting with all the guests and your friends or whoever they are. What was life like mentally, going back to the table and being with people after doing that?
I mean, again, it was a secret that I had. I never told anyone. For me, it was like, again, it was a control. I can see that. And when I'd go and sit back at the table, I was like, right, I've reset now. And I would think about things that I had to do tomorrow, because I always had photo shoots or I'd have to be on TV or all these different things. For me, I was looking around like, I'm good because I've now reset myself. And looking back, it's so bizarre because I hadn't reset anything. You know, mentally, there was nothing reset. Mentally, I was just in this really, really self-destructive cycle that at the time I just couldn't see. But in the moment, I felt like I had power. Yeah. But looking back, I was actually powerless, you know? So to look back and for me to think that I had control over that, I actually didn't.
Yeah. Great observation. And just to highlight, you were doing all of these things for what was to come. So the next day, your photo shoots and TV appearances. And did you feel like there was a huge emphasis on, you know, I believe back then it was more, I think it was, what's it called, size 0 or size 6 or something? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, things are changing now, I would say, but the pressure on women and men back then, but the pressure to be this size and to even just this perfection, like you're basically aiming for perfection that you're never ever going to reach. And yeah, like they would airbrush photos anyway, they would change things in your images, but you would still never feel comfortable. I mean, I would show up to a photo shoot and there'd be like 20 people on set, 20 people. So in your mind, you're thinking, you know, I cannot put a single pound on here because who's going to judge me? It was even in the times whereby, like, if you're going up to, you're going to a casting and they're lining people up and they would literally say to people, like, you need to lose £5. You need to lose this. You know how you used to see that on the TV? Like, you used to see, you need to lose £5 or you'll never get booked. That was what it was like back then. So I always had this in my mind, like, if I'm not thin enough, I'm not good enough. And I was a size 6 to 8 at the time. You know, the photos when I look back now, I was tiny. So, yeah.
Wow. The pressures, and then it's that's what's magnified out to the world, and for younger kids. So with that being like the barrier of entry into that industry, but also kids growing up look at models and celebrities and famous people as you know, not mentors, but they look up to them. So they social media is huge because now they can filter the shit out of all the photographs, but it's an unreachable goal.
It is. It really is. You don't know what's reality and what's not. And I am glad to see this kind of changing now. We are seeing women just standing fully in their power and just showing up as
so
they are,
good.
curve models. It's so beautiful. But yeah, thanks for highlighting that, because I do think it's an important part of my life when I reflect on that, which I don't do often. But for me to share that story, and for any young women or men to hear that, like, you are enough without having to adhere to what society deems acceptable in terms of size. And that's just the bottom line, you know, that's it. And
Yes.
yeah.
Super celebrating. And yes, 100%. We already have everything we need inside of us. And we were created uniquely for a reason. And it's time that we remember that and honor that as well. What was the turning point for you to get out of that situation?
So I remember I had actually connected with a magazine which was called Female First. And there was an editor within that magazine called Ruth. She's a beautiful human. And we'd connected and we were talking about a lot of different subjects. And at that point, life was kind of slowing down. There was a lot of changes happening. And I had recognised that this was becoming toxic. So I'd slowly came away from it. And I'd slowly tried to, I think at the time, my lifestyle had changed. So I felt like I didn't have to control as much. And thereby my actions were slowly, it was almost like I was tuning out of bulimia. And I do understand that for some people, it's like an illness, it's debilitating and they just mentally can't stop the actions. But for me, it was almost like the way I got into it was by the external things that was going on. And when the external parts of my life began to change, so did my actions. So I was slowly coming away from it. And then I spoke to Ruth and I said, look, this is what's been going on. You know, I realise that this has been toxic and I'm only using this as like a way of coping. And we chatted about it. And she says, you know, we should probably do an article. And when I done the article for this magazine, it was like therapy. And then I just started about it. And as soon as I started to be honest and authentic and truthful, I was like, you know what? I have to let this go now. And I have to, this is it. And it was like a switch again, as much as it was a switch on, for me, it was like a switch off, like, no more, that's it.
Incredible. And how did all your peers, your friends, family, how did everyone relate to that?
Well, they didn't know until they read the article. No one knew. I had everyone.
So what did they say from that point on?
Yeah, I mean, they wanted to know why I didn't share it. And I think this is something that comes up a lot. It's like these internal struggles that we have. People around us always say, why didn't you talk about it? Why didn't you reach out? And sometimes in the moment you feel like there's power keeping things to yourself.
Yeah.
And so I think initially they were like feeling as if they should have supported me but couldn't. And then afterwards they were like, as long as you're okay, they would check in. And I was like, yeah, like everything's good now. So they were fully supportive afterwards, which is good. And I would say that, like, if there is anyone that you can confide in, or go to for support, then definitely do that and be truthful and be your honest self, because for me, that was the most freeing thing that I could have done with that situation.
Yes, I love it. So just to highlight there that everybody accepted you no matter what.
Yeah,
They were glad and there for support even afterwards.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah. So that's so basically for anyone struggling or anyone being in a situation like that at the minute, that's your advice.
Yeah, yeah. Even just one person,
Mm-hmm.
one person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just open up and be vulnerable. I
Yeah.
think vulnerability is something that, you know, we shy away from and we're scared of, but with vulnerability comes great bravery.
Yeah, I heard a quote. I heard a guy mention it a few years ago now, but vulnerability is our superpower.
Yeah, yeah, I truly believe
Vulnerability.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was life like in the limelight? Fame, Big Brother, all of that jazz.
I mean, look, on reflection, I was 21 years old. I was made famous literally overnight. And, you know, I was on one of the biggest TV shows that the UK's ever seen. You know, it's millions of people are tuning into every night.
It's
They're watching you
insane.
sleep in your bed, you know, so
So
it
there's
was
no
bizarre.
farting.
No farting, no farting, no peeing through the night. Yeah, you've no privacy when you go on that show. And to be fair, like I think that's why now, like I just don't give a shit because I've been on TV and they've literally seen everything anyway. So it's like whatever,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. And then the fame side of things, did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Are you happy it's
Yeah,
over?
you
Or is it
know,
over? What's going on?
fame, fame's an interesting topic because when you don't have it and you think you want it based on what you see in the magazines and TV, etc., you think that it's going to be this one fit size all and it's going to solve everything and it's going to give you so much happiness, wealth, abundance. Like, yeah, if I get fame, then I've got everything. And the
Mm-hmm.
reality of that was it's just a different way of living. So, yeah, initially it was great. I was 21 years old. I'm living in London. I'm meeting all these famous people. I'm famous myself. It's like a whirlwind. But then you're on this roller coaster whereby you don't know what your next job's going to be, where you need to
Mm-hmm.
go stay. You know, you've not got a fixed place. I was living in and out of hotels for years. I was living in the
Jeez.
Mayfair in London, getting papped as I walked out the front door. I couldn't even go to like the shops without people coming up to me. And because of the nature of Big Brother, they watch you every single day. So they feel like they have a relationship with you. So
Oh
when the
yeah, the
public,
people.
when
Yeah,
you're out,
yeah.
and you forget that because when you're in that house, you do, I get asked this a lot, but you do genuinely forget that the cameras are there because the majority of the cameras are actually behind mirrors.
Uh-huh.
So you're in your own universe with these strangers that become your family, and you're in this world whereby you're just that is your world. Everything in it is reality. And then when you get put into the outside world, it's like, wow, what just happened? It's bizarre. It's so bizarre. And you've got these strangers coming up like, Karly, yeah, I know, and this, and they're like, they think you are like their best friend. It's like, whoa, like I'm just trying to go to the shop for some water over because I was with like all these celebrities last night, like, what's going on? My life's mad. But listen, fame's an interesting one, especially in the reality TV world, okay? Because reality TV is very high highs, but very low lows. And I think this
Mm.
is something that's really important to highlight because young girls and boys believe that if they go on these quick fix reality TV shows, that life's just going to be amazing. But in
Mm-hmm.
actual fact, it's very, very difficult to go back into real life once that roller coaster kind of comes to an end. And for me, I'll never forget, like, there was a few turbulent points in my journey after, you know, after I had left Big Brother and whatnot. And I'd say maybe a year on, I had took a job in Edinburgh. I got to the point where I was like, do you know what? I just want a normal life. I don't want to be famous anymore. I just want to know where I stay and where I need to go to work and
Mm-hmm.
how much I'm earning. And I took a job in Edinburgh, forgetting that I'm still famous to some people. And I remember sitting on the train one day and I'm in my work clothes and I'm tired and I've got my coffee and thinking about all the things I need to do at this job. And this girl says to her mum, like, she's looking at me and she says, "That's Karly from Big Brother. Look, look." And now I can hear this. But instead of talking to me, they're just like observing me like I'm not human.
Jeez.
And I'm just sat there like really awkward. And then they both get their phones out, take a picture of me, and then put the phones back. And I'm just sat there like, what the fuck just happened? Like, what just happened there? And then I got off the train and I was like, shit, I'm still famous. Whoa, like they've just took a picture of me without asking, and like it's as if I'm not human. What's going on? And it was bizarre. And it was like that for a few years after. Like I would forget that people knew who I was from that TV show, but I had already moved on to a new version of myself with a new life, with new goals. But I think that's the thing. Sometimes people hold this image of you from the past that they believe is still true, when in actual fact you have transformed and grew and evolved. And that's what we should all be here to do, is we should always be evolving.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And the waves of change. That's the name of the podcast, and you can embrace it, or you can. It's if you embrace the change in your life, it goes with ease, flow, and joy and grace. But if you hold on to whatever your past identity is, you get stuck in the middle of not knowing who the fuck you are, and it's highly evident in a lot of people around the world today. Mentally, for you crossing over, how was that? And how many years before you let go of that identity completely?
So yeah, I mean, Big Brother, the roller coaster was for about a year, and I was going around all these different countries. You know, I was in America and London. I went to Hong Kong at some point. I was just all over the world. And then when my feet finally touched the ground, I had like went through a bit of a turbulent relationship, and then that ended. And I come back to Scotland, as I always do. I always find myself back in motherland, my beautiful Scotland. And I came back here and I was like, whoa, okay, something needs to give, like something needs to change. And I found that a lot in my life. Like there'll be a whirlwind and then my feet will touch the ground and I'll say, okay, what do I need to do now? And I do trust myself with those decisions. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get a job. And it was like in that moment I said, I'm going to get a job. And then this girl that I knew said, we're hiring, do you want to work in finance? And I was like, I've never done that before, but yeah, I'll give it a try. And I remember going for the interview, and everyone in the company knew who I was. And I just rocked up thinking, I'm just Karly. I just want a job.
Yeah,
Like this is maybe like this will probably be like 2 years after I was on the show, which is quite a long time. You know, it's 2 years after I've been on the show. Who really gives a
yeah.
shit anymore?
But
That's my
there's
mindset.
people that think they're after being living with you for how long does that show go on for?
Oh, it's on like for 3 months.
3 months. Yeah.
It's a long time. It's like the whole summer they're like living with you, like knowing who you are. But I remember it was this beautiful office on George Street in Edinburgh, and I rocked in. I was like, oh, I can really see myself working here. This is brilliant. All the people were dead friendly. Done the interview, felt like I'd done really well. And they kept asking me, like, what's your gap on your CV? And I was like, oh, well, yeah, I've done a lot of traveling. And I never wanted to bring up, like, I was in Big Brother. I just said that there was a gap in my CV because I was traveling the world, which wasn't a lie. And they're like, all right, okay. So the interview was done, and they kind of just put all the paperwork to the side, and they were like, right, Karly, we know you were in Big Brother. Just tell us all about that. And we just all burst out laughing. And I was like, right, okay. They're like, yeah, we know that's what the gap was. And, so we just scrapped it all, and they were like, you know, did you see the cameras and what was it like? And we actually spent a full hour talking about Big Brother. And I got the job. I did get the job.
Of course you got the job.
And it was
They
great.
wanted all your stories.
That was amazing. And it's so funny because, you know, the money did not matter to me. All I wanted was to feel part of a community, to have security, to have control in my life. And the money that I made a year in that job that I picked, I used to make in one day when I was famous. One day.
Wow.
And I did not care. I was like, do you know what? I don't care. I just want to make something of myself. And that's what happened. Like I started at the very bottom. And I used to get on the bus at like 5:45 every morning, go to Edinburgh, have the best time with such beautiful people. Like, I loved everyone that I worked with. And yeah, I did that for, I must have had that job for 4 years, but I started at the bottom, worked my way up to the top. And then that's how I eventually got into business, was because I was like, you know, I've done the fame thing. I want people to take me serious. I've got a lot more to me than just what meets the eye, you know.
Yes.
I did go to uni and I did get some A's, and yeah, let's just explore this part of me. And that's what I did. I just worked my way up and then eventually got into like international business.
Love it. I just want to celebrate you for that again. That's another stage of your life where you were potential. Well, you were put into a box of how you should be in society's eyes, and your intuition guided you back to where you belong.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
celebrating you for that. Was that I can't remember. Was Big Brother before or after Australia?
That was after.
After Australia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
Because
I flew out to Australia. No, before and after, actually, because I flew out to Australia initially. It's so funny because I auditioned for Big Brother and then never heard from them, because the audition process is just crazy. Like, it lasts up to 8 months. So the process itself, like, I remember the first audition was just a fluke. I said to my friend, like, let's just go, see how we got on. She never got through the first round, and I was there for like 6 hours. I just kept getting through all the. Then they invited me back the next day. I was there for a full day again. They said, yeah, we'll be in touch. And then months later, they phone me and they're like, right, okay, Karly, we've got tickets. You need to go to the train station, put in this code, go to London, stay in this hotel. The next day, you'll meet a guy in a park who'll have a pink umbrella and a teddy bear in his hand. Walk up to this guy and say, custard, say custard, and then take you to a secret location. And I did it. I'm looking back, like, what the fuck?
what
But
the
yeah, I did it. I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. Cool. I could have got kidnapped or anything, but I'm like,
yeah, sure. Over in India with
yeah,
God knows
totally.
what.
Human trafficking, like, yeah. But no, like, I did it, and yeah, right enough, the guy who's standing in the park with a pink umbrella, I'm like, wow, this is really actually happening.
Fucking.
So yeah, I was in London for 2 days, doing all that, and I remember like the last stage of the audition, there was maybe like a couple of hundred of us. This is 6 months in, a couple of hundred of us, and everyone's like, okay, this is a scenario whereby you need to vote out the person that you think would win Big Brother. I'm like, all right, okay. So no, yeah, no, like somebody who you think would win, like they're going to be your competition, get them out, okay. So
It's
majority of
just
people voted for
dirty, isn't
me.
it?
They voted for me, right, to get me out. And they're like, whoever you vote for, they will not be on Big Brother. Like, you're actually excluding them, so you're giving yourself a better chance, right? So they vote for
Show
me.
business.
And I stood up and I'm
Sneaky
like,
business.
I'm so pissed off, because I'm like, I've just spent 6 months of my life to get to this point, and all you guys are like putting me out. What the fuck? So the producers are like, right, Karly, I'm really sorry. We need to, like, it's time for you to go home now. And I'm being like, all right, okay, this is brilliant. Is there any last words you want to say to the group? And I just turned around and I went, yeah, you're all a bunch of arseholes. And they walked out. And then I got outside, and the producers pulled me aside and they were like, listen, we just wanted to gauge who we feel were the biggest characters. You're in and all of them are out.
Yes.
I was like, whoa,
It's such
right,
a
okay.
fucking.
I was like, it's like total reverse psychology. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow. All of them were actually away home, but I was the only one that actually got through to the next round. So that was the last I heard. Didn't hear anything else, and life was moving on. Had the opportunity to go back to Australia, and I got on the flight, went to Australia. I was there 3 weeks, and then I got a call to say, you're a housemate. We need you in London tomorrow. And I was like, look, guys, there's a really small problem, but I've just moved to Australia and this is where I am. And they were like, we'll check flights. Can you get to the airport within the next 24 hours? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, flew home, went to France, was in hiding, and yeah, the next thing I know, I'm on Big Brother. It's just a whirlwind.
It's mental. Just to highlight the reverse psychology and the psychology of that whole industry. It's just it's a bit like the football. My nephew is a professional footballer, but they don't know their arse from their elbow. They're living contract to contract. even when they have 2 years left in their contract, they've no idea what's next to get a
Yep.
bad manager or whatever. But I can imagine that's the same in the show business. You just don't know
Absolutely.
what's coming next. So your life is like on eggshells all the time.
And I think because I was so young, whilst I was unknowingly in touch with my intuition, I think if I was to go into it now or be in a situation whereby I was on a show or did experience fame again, I would be able to tap into something else whereby I was always guided by my intuition. I would
Uh-huh.
know so much better, and I would be able to do it in a way whereby I'm not famous just for being famous. I'm famous to give influence, and I'm famous for impact, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
two completely different things. It's not to say that fame's bad or the industry's bad as such. I just feel like a lot of people are out of touch with their intuition and they make decisions based on what other people perceive they should be doing
Uh-huh.
or an image that people want them to be, rather than actually living and being famous from a point of, I'm just here and a lot of people know me and I'm just want to give influence in a positive way. So yeah, it's not that it's bad. It's just I feel like if famous people were able to tap into this maybe more spiritual, intuitive side, then there's power in it.
Beautiful, and that's a great transition. How does your spiritual awakening come about?
I mean, that was kind of like a gradual process, but I would say there was one defining moment, and I spoke about this openly before. I've just got goosebumps over my whole body. And it was when my grandmother passed. She's with me all the time. But yeah, when my
Beautiful. What was
grandmother,
her name?
Martha,
Martha.
she was
Beautiful.
an earth angel, totally earth angel, beautiful, beautiful woman. And yeah, it was funny because we didn't expect her to pass. She wasn't necessarily ill. And I remember 2 weeks before she even went to hospital, I was in my house crying every single day. And I'm not a person that cries easily. I don't get depressed as such. I'm always on the go. Nothing was going on in my life whereby I should have felt upset. But my friend at one point was like, Karly, you have to get out the house. What's wrong? And I said, I honestly don't know. I feel like I'm grieving, but I've nothing to grieve for. So we went out, had coffee, and then maybe 4 days later, my mum said, look, grandma's going to hospital. She needs to get checked over, something to do with her lungs and her liver. And I was like, okay. And I remember her being in the hospital for maybe 3 days. And every time when I'd go to visit, it's like, please go visit. This voice would be like, go visit, go visit. Like, no matter what, you need to go and see her. And I'm like, okay. So went in to visit her. My friends and I are going to Berlin for a weekend to see Nicki Minaj. And I'm telling her all about the concert, and she loved music and she loved hearing our stories. And I'm like, look, Grandma, we're going to see Nicki Minaj, blah, blah. She wished us well and we went. And as soon as we got to Berlin, like there was signs everywhere. Now, I didn't even book the hotel, but in the hotel that we checked into, there was a cafe there called Martha's Kitchen. It's
Oh,
had her name right over it. And I'm like, wow, this is just insane. And yeah, we're just having the best time. All these other signs are popping up. I get a little fridge magnet on it that's, the Banksy sign where it's the girl in the red balloon.
oh yeah, I love it. I love it.
And I always buy my grandmother, anywhere I go in the world, I buy her a fridge magnet, but it's got the place on it. But for some
Uh-huh.
reason, this one fridge magnet, I was like, that resembles me and her. I'm going to buy her that. So I bought it at the Berlin Wall. And then we were just about to go out to see Nicki Minaj, and I was playing the music on the speaker. Me and all the girls were getting ready, and my phone rang, and it was my mum. And she said, Karly, she was upset. She said, Karly, your grandmother's passed. And the room just stopped silent. And all my friends got super upset. And it was like this calmness washed over me. And it was like I already knew. And I was
Oh,
like, okay. And then I just said to them all, they were like, right, we're going to cancel the night. We're not going to go to the concert. And I was like, no, we need to go. Like, she wants us to go. And it's just this inner knowing, something switched inside me. It was like, I just knew that she was with me. It's like she passed and came straight to me. That's the only way that I
yeah.
can describe it. So yeah, that happened. I just felt at peace, and I said, look, girls, like, let's just go and have the best time. And we did it in our memory. And the following week we had our funeral, and then the week after our funeral, I had this dream that was not a dream. And I tell this story because I feel like a lot of people in the world have dreams and they
Uh-huh.
put them down to dreams, but there's a lot more to it. So,
Yes.
you know, and there's power in what we receive when we're asleep, because sometimes we don't receive information when we're awake because it's too much. So
Uh-huh.
it's really important that, you know, when you have visions or dreams, one, you can understand the difference, but two, you actually like use it to your advantage and pull down that information and make sense of it in real waking life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I had this dream, not a dream, vision. And my grandmother came to me and she said, look, your grandfather was here. Your, sorry, it's noisy.
That's
Signs.
okay. Take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, she came through and she was like, yeah, your grandfather was standing here, your auntie was here, your mum was on this side, and your other auntie was on this side. She showed me the scarf she was wearing. She showed me her passing. She showed me that my auntie was cutting white flowers out the garden and keeping them.
Wow.
And I woke up in the morning and I was like, it was so vivid and it kept replaying in my mind. Like, you know, when you have a dream and then you forget it and you try so hard to get back to sleep to
Yeah,
remember,
yeah.
it was the opposite. It was like in my waking state, I just kept seeing it. So I called my auntie and I said, look, I've had this dream. Can you tell me, where were you all standing? Was she wearing this scarf? Have you been cutting white flowers out the garden? And she was like, speechless. She was like,
Oh my God, goosebumps.
yep. And I was in Berlin at the time, so there's absolutely no way I would have known any of this. And in that moment, I was like, okay, there's something changed within me and something's happened. And that was my spiritual awakening. And from there, I got dreams every second night. I was phoning people in the morning with messages, and that was it. That was it. Something
Wow.
changed.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
I've got goosebumps on my neck and all down my arms and everything. That's incredible. And it's also there's another thing that it's about the dream state and that we dream. Somebody asked me a question a year or two ago, but who's to say we're not dreaming right now and we're awake in
Yeah.
the other we're awake when we sleep and we're asleep right now.
Yep. Could be. I'm so open to things like that. I mean, look, whatever you actually think inside and you project out, it becomes our reality. And I'm seeing that more and more now. So, yeah, I mean, that could actually be.
Reality is like incredible with so many I my plant medicine journey last 3 weeks ago, and
Mm.
I mean
What
it's
was that like?
ah there's not profound intelligence is
Mm.
probably the best way I can describe it. Profound intelligence. We are like minuscule, although connected to everything, but the intelligence of Mother Earth and the plants and nature is like it's just wow, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, such an
Yeah.
incredible journey home to myself again. And what I find is the deeper I go into myself, the more connected I feel to everything else,
Mm-hmm.
and the deeper rooted in my power I am
Mm-hmm.
walking life. So I'm way calmer and more relaxed and just
Mm-hmm.
surrendering and trusting that everything is unfolding exactly how it's supposed to.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, there's not enough time on this call to tell you everything. But
No,
yeah,
we need to do another
it's
one.
yeah, definitely your one.
Yes, absolutely. 100%. There we
Yeah,
go. Top
yeah.
priority.
Did how did Gary get on?
Yeah, he was the same. Like, it was just this sort of journey whereby afterwards he felt really calm. He's going to go back again in January.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and you know, I have friends who my friend who introduced me and him into that. He has just this really calm way of life, and the way that he explains it is exactly how you say. It's like super intelligence that we're
Mm-hmm.
not tapped into. And when you experience plant medicine, it almost taps you in. I mean, it's not the same as ayahuasca, but right now I am doing a microdose of mushrooms.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And I'm on my second week now.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, I feel like I'm so connected to, like, my senses are connected more, even though I'm tuned into stuff anyway. It's like all of my senses are heightened. So
Mm-hmm.
even my walks in the morning, I'm like, I can smell all the smells at once, and the colors are so vivid. And it's almost like I can
Yes.
feel the trees and feel the plants. And it's like you almost become one with everything around you. So, yeah, I mean, even something as I'm saying minuscule, but mushrooms are an incredible, incredible thing.
Fungi.
But
psilocybin.
yeah, I mean, and again, it's like about expanding your consciousness. It's about, being open to these things. A few years ago, when I'm working in corporate, if you asked me to microdose mushrooms, I'd tell you to piss off. Like, no, I'm not,
Yeah,
no, I'm not going on a trip for like 8 hours. Like, had just ignorance, I
yeah,
suppose,
yeah.
me at the time. Whereas now I'm just so much more open. And like you say, I'm like, you're calm and you're receptive and you're trusting. And I think the more we all do that as humans, we just tap into something else and we trust and we surrender
Mm.
and we're vulnerable and we just try new things. Like the universe catches you,
Yeah,
you know?
100. The biggest safety net, and also the biggest yes button on, like in the world. If you tell the universe what you're having, it just says yes, and you have
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yep.
And it's interesting. The guest I had on yesterday was just like the exact same conversation around microdosing, and what we spoke about was how plant medicine is. So first of all, we were speaking about ayahuasca,
Mm-hmm.
and now we are onto mushrooms, and um, it's how they are perceived by the media and by the rulers and who whatever you would call them, the politicians,
Yeah.
and they've made them class A drugs and all of that. And just for the listener to recognize, these plants have been around for longer than we have been on this planet, and they are labeled as alternative.
Yep.
Alternative to what? So
Exactly.
I'll just highlight that. One is man-made, one is grown in nature and has been around for centuries, like eons.
Yep.
Um, and that's also the thing. It's like it's not to persuade anyone to do anything they don't want to do, um, but just to recognize what your conversation is around different things. Like you
Mm-hmm.
saying a few years ago, you would have told someone to piss off if they suggested that. But what I find, anyways, for me is you slow down to the speed of wisdom.
Yes.
And when you're tapped into nature, the chaos of the world, um, it doesn't affect you as much. So
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, depression, and fear, and all of those things, and you don't necessarily need to have any of these things in order to get into that state. Um, the last podcast I was on, I was asked, what would be your biggest advice for anybody suffering with mental health issues?
Mm-hmm.
And the simple and easiest answer to that is get into nature for as
Yep.
much of your day as you can, as humanly possible for you, and watch it all unfold. Um, and if you
Mm-hmm.
want to add to that, and you know, yeah, if you decide to microdose of mushrooms or anything like that, but without that, just be in nature, be
I
in,
fully support that as well. Yep.
mm,
The
just be,
best thing, and it's free.
and it's free, exactly. Excuse me, and it's also there's a there's a quote. Like one morning I had a massive, so I always have I can go into nature and sit there, and I have these realizations. I have to just
Mm-hmm.
all the time. And one of the realizations I had when I was on the medicine journey was like, no matter what, we're all. I just look at a group hug with the moon, the stars, the with Mother Earth. When my hands hit the earth, it was like this cycle of life come right through me. Like I, and then I purged as well, so it felt like literally felt like the mother herself put her hand into my stomach and pulled out whatever
Mm-hmm.
trauma or sickness or illness might have been still stored in there, you know, because
Wow.
obviously, yeah, it was really, really profound. But also, um, as I was journeying a lot of the time, it was beautiful dance with my ego, because
Mm.
my mind kept trying to label the experience, and
Yep.
also, um, it was trying to switch on and tell me what not to do. And if I was dancing and just being in flow with spirit, it was like, oh, look, you're dancing now, and stop purging, or
Yep.
stop being noisy, or stop moving,
Control, like trying to
yeah,
control your
yeah,
own.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what happened then was like, my word for the whole thing was trust and surrender. And
Mm.
whenever anything came online like that, I just remembered, just let go. The deeper I let go, the more beautiful and the deeper I went into my
Yeah.
own inner journey and my healing. And it's just it's just incredible. It really is.
Yeah, trust and let go, I think, are the two things like in modern society that you're like the two things that you hold on to probably the tightest. And
Mhm.
you're like, how do I trust and how do I trust and let go and the world as it is? But yeah, again, the starting point, like out with plant medicine, out with anything, if you go into nature, that's the one state that you go into is you're just trusting and you're letting go because there's nothing else to do in that environment. And then
Mhm.
your mind, you're almost like allowing your mind to be free and you experience what it feels like to be free. And then when you go back to normal life, you're like, actually, nah, I want to be free again. And then you start
Yes.
acting different, you know?
Yes, yes, 100%. And as like I'm blessed, I've been in this house for a few years, and like when I open my eyes, I can like the first thing I see is the sunrise, like
Mm-hmm.
literally from my bed. And there was a massive storm here, and like I said, it's unobstructed from the ocean. And there's hundreds of trees out there, and I'm sort of elevated looking down on them. But there's this one tree. It's what would be described as a big Christmas tree. It's not. It's a pine something. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
um, and all of these trees were bent over, and like it was a massive storm, and yeah, basically some of the trees were nearly coming down, and the
Mm-hmm.
moment I opened my eyes, it was like this massive spiritual download from nature itself. There's this one tree, and it's right in my eye line that wasn't moving at all. Where the
Wow.
other trees were literally there was trees blown down all around the country. It was massive floods, everything, but this one was just still. And the realization I had from that was, amongst the chaos, always remember to be still.
Mm.
So the deeper rooted into the deeper rooted you are into yourself and into nature, the calmer you can be amongst the chaos, amongst the
Yep.
storm. And
Yep.
the storm is always gonna pass.
Yep.
Always. Always.
Always does. Always does. And
Mm,
storms come to clear the path as well,
yeah.
you know,
A
really
hundred
clear the
percent.
way.
A hundred
So
percent. So now since you've had this spiritual awakening, how does your life look and feel? What do you do in your day to day?
Well, you know, like you, it's I feel very calm. I'm just so in touch with my intuition, and every single day, you know, it's just for me, it's this trust and surrender. I ground every day, meditate every day, and yeah, I've just had this full blown switch from corporate and all these other things to fully stepping into who I am and my gifts and being open
Hmm.
about my gifts as well. Again, like we're told that back in the day they'd burn the witches and
Hmm.
and then you actually think, well, why did we burn the witches and then not question the people who actually burned them? Because what were they doing? There was power that they had. They were healing
Uh-huh.
people. When you look into the history of all that, they were healers.
Yes.
They seen the future. They were powerful women, and
Uh-huh.
yet they were burned. And it makes you wonder, like, who actually made those decisions, and should we have burned them instead? Like. But yeah, for me, I just fully stepped into my gifts and my powers. And again, like clairvoyance, yeah, I will have things that will come through from the other side, but equally I can sense energy. So if there's certain things that's wrong with people, I can pick it up. I also sense like illnesses in people. So if someone's feeling off, they can be in a different country and I'll know if someone's hungover when I'm connected.
Mm-hmm.
If someone's dehydrated, they'll be like, "Whoa, I feel dehydrated." I can tell people's illnesses based on the connection that we have. It's all of these things are just developing day by day by day, and I'm just using them again through readings. I do coaching, so it's soul coaching, so it's connecting on a
Soul
soul
coach. I
level.
absolutely
Yeah.
love that.
Soul coaching, and it's whereby we just get really into the nitty gritty stuff, and I just create a space whereby they can be fully authentically themselves and speak their truth. And I am a qualified hypnotherapist as well, which I usually do sessions whereby I put them into this the state of relaxation. They can see things that they wouldn't normally see through their thinking mind. It allows them to sit there and just be calm for an hour or 2 hours, however long the session is. But yeah, this is me and this is my truth, and I have never felt more free. I've never felt more like myself. And I do see, like, on reflection, all of these things that I did, the fame, the business, the corporate, the everything, the matrix that I was consumed in and now I'm away from, all of that had to happen to get me to where I am now, so I could be a light worker and so I can help humanity. And just, yeah, it all comes from a place of just wanting to serve others and not wanting to serve myself anymore. So yeah, it's very different, but it feels very, very beautiful to me, and I'm very, very grateful.
Yes, incredible. A quote just I don't know if I can remember it properly, but it's not how we live, it's what we give that counts. It's not how we live, it's what we give that counts. And I thank you for highlighting that, because I feel that's the secret to everything. It's not what you can take from life, what can you give to life in service to others, and then there's the reciprocity of everything, that which will return.
Yeah.
What was it? I made a quote a while back. Be careful of the energy you put out in the world, for you are the magnet for that which will return.
So true. So true. And I see that more and more now. So I'm actually very careful with my words, because words are spells.
Spells, yes. I love it.
This is something that people don't speak about enough, but when you're tuned into a frequency whereby you can put stuff out there and things manifest very quickly, if you say certain words and they hold a frequency, then listen, that stuff's coming back. So be very careful with your words. Make sure that you're speaking all positive things. I know we're not positive all the time, we're humans, but yeah, be careful, because words do cast spells. That's a thing. Trust me.
100%. And just to highlight as well, it's like in these spaces now, and I'm glad you said about being your authentic self. You help people, even for an hour, come back into that, come back into themselves and their authentic self. It's just what I'm really highlighting here is how many of us in society are going around living somebody else's life, that people feel the need to come to me or you and you know, be in this privacy in order to open up to who they really are.
Yep.
What does that say about today's world?
I know. It's true. It's true. And it's like, again, I always say to people, because I have been in the media world and I know how much they can lie and deceive and manipulate things and edit things, and, you know, I know how far away from the truth things could be. I always highlight to people, what are you consuming? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you looking at? And if, because I used to be so consumed, like, what's this celebrity doing? What's that celebrity doing? What, you know, what's all these people doing? And all your mind is in a constant state of is in comparison. Constant comparing. And then you're living a life whereby it's unattainable because you don't even want it anyway. It's just based on what your mind, what you're consuming and what you're internalizing. And again, like, whatever our internal world looks like, I genuinely believe that we put it out there and we then create our own reality from that. So when people are fully authentic and that they get true to who they are, they can create whatever they want. They could be a painter for all they like, but they'll love it because it's their truth. And, you know, there's abundance in that. They'll sell all their bloody paintings because there's frequency attached to that.
Yes.
But if people live in from a place whereby they're comparing themselves to others on social media, they're working a job or a career that their parents told them they should have done, and or they're buying stuff for status, etc., it just disconnects you more and more and more and more. And it's like, let's come away from that and let's really come back to who we are and what we want. And I think as soon as people realise that, I always say it's like a switch, but that's always how I feel like it is. So for me, it's like a switch and something changes. And it's a series of mini light bulb moments from there on.
Yes,
You know?
yes. I liken them to synchronicities. Synchronicities.
Yes.
My
Yep.
one of my mentors, he calls them love notes from the universe. But it's just that little wink that you're on the right track.
Yep.
And yeah, comparison is the thief of all joy. Like trying to be somebody else is robbing you of the person that you really are underneath everything. You know, a unique gift from the divine.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks for highlighting that. So Karly, what do you know? When I seen you, I shared your picture. Um, you know that picture. What was it? The media is
In
the
the
virus.
process.
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
media is the
yeah.
virus.
Yep.
And I shared it, and then I was like, cool, because I read the caption, and then I was flicking through, and I was like, fucking hell. I know that name, and I was like, Karly,
Because we met
Karly,
before I went to Big Brother, like
yes, yeah,
so
yeah.
long ago.
And
And
you
then
had
the
blonde
universe brought us
hair
back.
then, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And like our souls are literally on the same journey right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it's
When you think
great.
about that, like how far, I mean, that was in what, 2008, 9, we knew each other.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
both been on these journeys and come back full circle. And by me sharing my truth and speaking my truth and you doing the same thing in the same moment, we reconnected back again. It's
Mm,
incredible. Universe, I guess.
exactly, the universe, because what I highlight is they say people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yeah, here you're probably here now for the lifetime that you come in for the
Yep.
season to start off with. But now our souls are on the same path, and it's incredible because back then it was fucking party central.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I
Same.
met you, we were in a party, or we were out somewhere.
Yep. Yep.
Mm.
Same. All the
Um,
time.
so your vision for the future, what does that look like?
Okay, so yeah, I mean, in this moment in time, I'm building my soul empire. I just want to help as many people as I possibly can on their journey back to self. I want to reach as many people in the world as I can. I could visualize myself doing talks and TED Talks, podcasts, and I just want to live a life of creating content and just sharing my truth so that people can have their own awakenings, realizations, and just essentially help humanity come back to themselves, because I do believe that we're here for a bigger purpose, that we're here to shift the world. We're not here to stick with the old. We're here to create new. And what I'm doing in this
Mm,
moment, creating new, and whatever that looks like, and whatever missions I have to go on, and wherever I need to go, like my soul's fully in, and that's where I'll be. So yeah, it's going to be really fun, really interesting, and I'm really
brilliant,
grateful.
brilliant. Do you have a number of where our targets?
No, no, and yes. It's funny because I kind of see visions, less of like less logic, more flow for me, and the way that I visualize,
Yes, I love
you know.
that. I love
Um,
that.
and I think it's the feminine in me. It's like, I used to be quite logical when I was like proper in my masculine, like corporate, like boom, boom, boom. Whereas now I'm like free flow. Woo. So yeah, it's more like a vision. And the logic, I do have to do the logic at some point, but I kind of park that. But for me, yeah, so much expansion, talking to thousands of people, being on stages. Like, I just want to impact as many people as I possibly can. I want to reach as many people as I possibly can. And I am fully open to all of the opportunities that the universe is going to give me. So I'm just
Ah,
trusting, surrendering, and going with the flow, because I know that that's what's going to serve me and everyone else best. So yeah, that's
yes, I love
win.
all of that. So quick one. What advice would you give to your 20-year-old self?
Okay, 20-year-old self would be trust the inner voice more, and it'll get louder. Live for you and don't live for others' expectations of you. That would be my two things.
Oh, I love it. And boom, that is the number one regret of the dying is being afraid to live a life that they wanted, because what was it? Not having the courage to live the life that they wanted, and living the life for the approval of others.
Yep. Yep.
So that one
Definitely.
just dismantles that.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible. Karly, what does the waves of change mean to you?
Well, as you know, I love the sea. I'm there every day, and every day the sea's different, the waves are different, and the waves of change to me, it shows that we're all different, we're all unique, but we're still all one.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Woo.
yeah.
Karly, landed right into my heart. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much for
Thank
your time.
you.
It's been an incredible chat. I'm excited for the next one already. How may people find you, and if they want to work with you?
Sure. I mean, at this moment in time, Instagram is where it's all popping off. So my Instagram handle is at Karly Ashworth. You can find
Mhm.
me on there, and all my links will be in the bio, website, podcast, etc., etc. And the empire is expanding as we speak. So yeah, they'll be able to connect with me on there.
Beautiful. Karly, absolute rock star. Incredible badassery out of you, and a courageous, powerful woman. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to what the future has in store.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.